and I am happier now than I've ever been. This stage 4 cancer journey has been the best thing that's ever happened in my life, and it's all because I was brought down to my knees to my deathbed. I actually was so close to death during chemo times. I bought a cemetery plot. I did my will, the whole 9 yards.
Anthony, how did you find carnivore?
Hey Dave, I found carnivore through my cancer journey. I was diagnosed stage 4 GIST cancer back in September 2022. Hopped on chemo treatment, a pill called sunitinib malate. I think I pronounced that properly. I did that pill for 130 days. My disease progressed, got worse. Cancer spread throughout the liver, uh, bigger in size. So when I quit chemotherapy treatment, the pills, January of 2023, I decided to try the natural approach and try different diets, exercise to see what would happen with the cancer. So every 3 months, I changed my diet depending on what the results showed with blood work and imaging. I was plant based, vegans, of course, standard American most of my life, which, in my opinion, got me into this predicament in the first place. And then I went keto. Keto drastically slowed down the rate of the cancer, and so did plant based. And the common factor is both have a smaller amount of carbohydrates, is what I realized. And then through my journey, a friend of mine sent me a video of a guy named Jeff DeProsperous up in Canada. He had a stage 4 colon cancer, and he was also on treatment and doing carnivore fasting and all these other things. And he was surviving and thriving with colon cancer, which is a by far worse diagnosis in mine, in my opinion. Yeah, I hopped on the carnivore train September of 2023, so this last year. So now I am 14 months in a couple days on the carnivore train. And honestly, it's been the best 14 months of my life. As far as mentally, physically, I've never thought clearer in my life. I'm gaining muscles in the gym. I'm actually gaining weight and muscles as a stage 4 cancer patient, which is very unheard of most of the time. Um, and initially, I was like, how are you going to be carnivore? It's going to be boring. You know, where's the variety? And then I realized you're not just super strict far as, I don't have to eat ground hamburger every day or a steak every day. I'm allowed fish. I'm allowed, deer or different types of cuts of meat. And of course, the fattier, the better. But you're not stuck with just one selective choice of meat, which is amazing. And once I realized it feels good to feel good, and the food is what's doing that, I don't have that temptation or that urge to eat something that's going to taste good momentarily, but actually cause me more harm by feeling lethargic and tired and inflammation afterwards. And so far as it's been really easy to stay consistent and strict overall, in my opinion, for me on the carnivore train. As far as my disease that I'm dealing with, uh, it's under control, which is amazing because with other dietary ways of eating, it was still getting worse.
So you just went for an update.
I did a most recent MRI within the last week or so, and I've also went to the oncologist and had a talk with him about it as far as the results. And my cancer diagnosis was September 2022. I had a surgery July of 2022 where they cut me open and removed a softball-sized tumor out of my stomach. I lost some of my stomach and intestines during which. And so with today's standpoint and scans, the cancer that's left is now at the same size roughly as it was back in 2022 before we poked the bear. Um, so I'm stable. There's no new growth, which is amazing. And the blood work, there's nothing new active, which is, of course, very amazing. And from a standpoint and the way I think, since everything matches up from today's date back to 2022 far as overall tumor sizes, that means I've been able to reverse all the damages done from chemotherapy and everything that happened between that. Because during that 130 days of chemotherapy, the cancer tumors grew bigger. They multiplied throughout the liver and spots, so they couldn't do a resection anymore. Um, so the fact that we're back to square one is amazing in my mind, and I feel good. That's the best part of it. Not many people with cancer feel good. They don't have energy. They don't want to go do stuff. And I have energy. I go to the gym on we'll say 5 to 6 day basis now per week. And initially it was 6 days a week, but I skip some days sometimes. I'm not as disciplined as I used to be.
So, how does your oncologist feel about this? Like the only intervention you're doing is diet.
So the way I could answer this about my oncologist, I actually have two oncologists. One's a local one, and then I have another oncologist out of state who's a specialist. Both of them I love dearly. Both are amazing individuals. Both are really intelligent in their own ways. But one is more open minded than the other. And I won't say which is which. But the more open minded oncologist agrees that, my lifestyle, my food, my mindset, what I'm doing with myself in the last 2 years since I quit chemo, well, it's been 21 months since I quit chemo, give or take. But since I quit chemo and I've applied myself to the natural approach, what I'm doing is helping control the illness, the disease I deal with. And then the more close-minded oncologist that I have, an amazing individual, I love him to death, but his close-mindedness always tells me that the cancer, the type of mutations that I have, is smart enough that it could activate and deactivate when it wants to, and that my lifestyle and my nutritional choice doesn't affect the cancer. And to go along that tangent real quick, I went to a local I went to a most recent GIST conference. It wasn't local, it was out of state. And GIST is the type of cancer I deal with, gastrointestinal stromal tumor. And first of all, we had a luncheon there. They said in the flyer, if you have food limitations, we could accommodate. I asked if they could accommodate for my restrictions, which is beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. They could not adhere to that restrictions for whatever reasons. And I was like, no big deal. I'll bring my own food, which not a big deal. I've learned to meal prep, which is really easy, by the way, once you get into it. We show up at this GIST conference. It comes lunchtime. I run out to my truck to grab my meat and egg scramble, and I eat it cold. Why not? And I get back to the room where everybody's eating at, and I look around the room, and all these pre-made box lunches that everyone's eating, it's like 80% carbohydrates. Even salad had very little meat to it, a lot of cheese, croutons, bag of chips, a whole bunch of fruit and vegetables on the salads, which we used to think salads are healthy. We learn about oxalates and what vegetables do to us sometimes. But everybody else is eating sandwiches or breaded chicken, but it's more bread than chicken. And it's like, then after lunch, I'm looking around the conference and everybody's, getting tired and whatnot because the carb crash. And I was like, and here nutritional needs don't matter is what I was told. I'm like, apparently I'm the only one, and I don't mean any disrespect by this, but a lot of the patients there at that conference didn't look very good. I mean, you could tell they weren't 100% healthy individuals. And here, looking at me and some other people that I know that have cancer that are carnivore based, you can't tell they have cancer. That's why you don't judge a book by its cover, though.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like that was catered by the American Diabetes Association.
Yeah, and to go along that tangent with the heart, we'll go off the American Heart Association, not diabetes this time. My heart doctor, nice individual, he's got a good personality, and since I've been carnivore based, I have not had any heart problems. I used to deal with afibrillation and seizure activity off and on. It really got bad during chemo times. It was like on a weekly basis or a daily basis. I'd black out and like convulsate. And back in August of 2022, I actually had 3 seizures back to back within like a 20-minute period, which I wound up in the hospital with that. And afibrillation for like 18 or 16 hours of irregular heartbeats until they got it under control. So since I've been carnivore based, no heart problems at all. Like I could go to the gym, exercise, I could do cold therapies, hot therapies, jog, whatever, and be fine. I went to my heart doctor recently to talk to him about how I've been doing, to get a checkup, and he asked about my heart, and I'm like, I've been fine since I've been carnivore based. I was like, so I tell him I think it's either something in the carbohydrates or something in the vegetables that was setting off an imbalance and causing me to convulsate and have afibrillation and whatnot. And he looks at me at the end of the conversation. Well, what heart meds do you want? I was like, did you not just listen to any conversation that we just had? I've been doing amazing for like 18 months now or 17 months with no heart problems, and now you want to put me on a pill? uh,
Wow. Well, but that's something that we seem that you kind of wake up to doing carnivore or just eating healthier generally is that no one's really listening. Everyone's just going through the motions and following the steps in whichever way they've been trained, right?
and that's the hardest part with anything, whether it's a doctor or, say, a nutritionalist or a logger, or it doesn't matter what your field is. If you've been trained in a certain way, which you think is right, and later on you find out is wrong, your ego gets in the way, and you have a hard time accepting that and getting over the fact that, like, oh, I spent this many years learning this or this much money learning this, and then I was lied to, basically. So then you're emotionally driven versus factually driven. And that's where I butt heads with doctors sometimes, because they may go to school and learn how to be a specialist for nose or surgeries or whatever their specialty is, but very few of them go to school for actually a period of time to learn about nutrition and the biometrics of the body and how things work and the longevity of putting the certain things into your body for a period of time and what it can or can't do to harm you or make you better. Um, to go along that tangent real quick, with my most recent oncologist appointment, a local one, I have more time to actually talk on a one-on-one basis with the doctor about stuff because we're not as busy locally versus out of town. And we were going through my blood work, checking out the liver functions and the whole 9 yards. I'm 33 years old now, and we traced back to when I was 23. And when I was 23 years old, we could see that my liver was having issues back then. So 10 years ago, my liver had problems through blood work. We could tell that. And since I've been carnivore based since September of last year till now, my blood work has gotten better and better. And at today's standpoint, it's the best it's been since my late teen years, early 20s. And here I got stage 4 cancer, living inside my liver.
It feels, this is my perspective. I'd love to hear your feedback on this. It's in a way, it's so empowering that you know that you can control elements of your health through the choices you make with diet. But on the other hand, it's this kind of feeling of like this almost scary or fear-based feeling that you get thinking, how did I ever trust the doctors that were never thinking about this in the first place?
So to be blunt on that, my honest answer on that is I would call that a sponge mentality versus a brick mentality. Far as how open minded somebody is, and with a trust issue with the doctors, that's kind of a fine line, and I guess it depends on how well the person agrees and gets along with their doctor. For example, I've had some doctors apologize to me for misinformation, and if you are adult enough and responsible enough to apologize for doing wrong, whether you're a doctor or just an individual or just you or I, whoever, that shows your character. It shows you're human and you actually have a heart. I can't hold a grudge against somebody like that. It's kind of like good cop versus bad cop. There's some bad ones out there, and there's some good ones out there. But I love law enforcement because we need them. But back to the brick mentality versus sponge mentality. The difference is some of us will read a book or listen to you or I and only take in what we want to take in so we could respond back to for an argument or to overpower or whatever the situation may be. Whereas the sponge mentality, you're soaking up everything, whether you agree with it or not, so you could retain as much as you can, whether it applies to you or not. It might apply to the next person you meet later on in life, and that you could help save their life, possibly, with something you retain. Um, and that's the biggest thing, and it's open mindedness or closed mindedness, brick or sponge.
Yeah, I think that problem. I feel like it seems to be getting worse, as we advance with stuff, that kind of, I'm listening not to understand, but I'm listening to respond.
Yeah, it's definitely
Mm.
gotten worse. And I don't know why it's gotten worse. Whether it's entitlement within the nation between our individualness, ego driven, or what. But I will say in my mind and my heart, I think if people just slow down and learn how to appreciate and enjoy life, a lot of these issues that we all have in general would dissipate and disappear because we would have the time to understand each other because we're listening to understand versus listen to argue and respond.
Yeah, exactly. Like, just listening to someone and understanding them, I think we've lost the fact that understanding someone doesn't mean you have to agree with everything they say, but you can still understand what someone's saying without agreeing with it, right?
Yeah, it's called an agreeing to disagree,
Mm.
Not to get into political stuff, but right now I'm sure I've lost quite a few friends on the interwebs or even just in general because of the political views are split down the different sides. And me as an individual, I'm not going to unfriend somebody or hate somebody because their views, they have those views for a reason. If I can't understand that, I could at least accept that that's their view, and I'll move on. That it doesn't bother me. It's sad that we've lost that. I don't know what the proper word. We've lost that piece as a nation, as humans, on how to understand and not be offended. And I don't know if it's because sometimes people get so pushy about it. If people, well, it's kind of like with the electric push right now. The government wants to start pushing electric vehicles and get rid of gas powered ones. For one, we don't have the power grid for it, but for two, it's kind of like telling a kid don't do that. When you tell somebody don't do it, they're going to do the opposite. So if you're trying to force people to go do something, go buy an electric vehicle, they're not going to want to. So if yeah, it's actually quite common. It's just it's
Right.
simple. We just have to
It's
be human.
Yeah, I mean, when you, as a parent, that's one of the first things you learn is the more that you tell your kids, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that, the more they're going to want to do it, right? So it's
Yeah.
just like that's human nature. Yeah. Um. So on your journey so far, like, have you? eaten the same way the whole time? Have you adjusted things up at all?
So as far as carnivore based, or since day one.
Yeah, well, since day one, how has it progressed?
So of course, when I hopped on treatment in day one back in September, October 2022, at that time I was told to eat whatever I want. Food is food as long as it's in you and you could keep it in you. It's better to eat and get sick than not eat at all, is what I was told basically. Um, so during the whole period of chemo, I ate whatever standard American diet, whatever I wanted to eat, and my weight was up and down. Definitely a lot of number three, not normal bathrooms, which was very common. Actually, if I'm being honest, most of my life, most of my bathroom issues have been number threes since I was a kid. So it tells me I've had food sensitivities since I was a kid. Um, so once I realized in January of 2023, when the cancer got worse under the regimen of treatment and eating whatever like the doctors told me to, and I instantly went plant based because I was like, oh, that's got to be the least amount of inflammation, probably the cheapest to do, blah blah blah. And I felt pretty good for the first like 30 days going plant based. I was into the gym, doing well. At that time, I was having to eat, oh goodness, every hour and a half, 2 hours on the dot, like consistently having to eat, which I was like, man, I have a high metabolism. My metabolism came back, which I didn't realize it at the time. I thought I had a high metabolism. It was just trashy nutrition that was getting dissolved real quick. That's why I keep refueling the fire. um, so I was eating 6 or 7 meals a day back when I was plant based, and they were all smaller meals. And then, like I said, the cancer didn't get any better. It slowed down, but it didn't get any better. And blood work was kind of trash, well, really trashy because of chemo and then trying to heal from that. Um, Mediterranean wasn't bad. I didn't get that great a gym performance out of it. As far as I had to actually bring food with me to the gym and eat while I was at the gym as well, just like when I was plant based. So when I was Mediterranean, I was probably having 4 meals a day, sometimes five. When the fifth would be like a small snack. But I'm also missing some of my stomach, so my meals are normally smaller than most. Um, And then since I've been carnivore based since September of last year, overall as a whole, we'll say 90% of the time I've eaten the same stuff over and over again. So, example, my favorite meal, which I have 95% of the days in a row, is I have ground beef 70-30 mix, 2 pieces of bacon, 2 pieces of jowl, which jowl is the fat of the neck of the pig. So it's the fat to protein content is like 4-1. So it's like, I don't know, don't hold me to it, but it's like 24 grams of fat to 5 grams of protein per serving. And of course, being carnivore based, fat's fuel source. Um, and then I have 4 eggs with that. So it's a big scramble. It's delicious. I salt it. It takes like 6-7 minutes to make, and it costs me, we'll say $10 or $11 to make. It's pretty cheap meal for what it is, and it's all nutrition. And then technically, if I didn't go to the gym, that one meal would be enough to keep me satiated all day and keep me at the same size. But the fact that I go to the gym, I have to eat a little bit more to accommodate for trying to grow and get a little bit bigger. Um, I weigh I weigh about 180 to 185 on a regular basis. I fluctuate a little bit. Sometimes I drop down to the 170s during my fasting times, which I do intermittent fasting every day. So I eat in an 8 hour window and I fast for 16 hours a day. And then once a month, normally at the beginning of the month, I will do a 3 day fast, 72 hours. And so last month I did 74 hours and 15 minutes no food. which was my longest fast to date. Eventually, I'd like to experiment with going a little bit longer, but I'm in no big rush for that because, I mean, I love food, but and I also, if somebody's never done fasting, and if there's no way to describe the way it makes you feel. The first day is the hardest, but the second day you feel a lot better. And day three, it's like you're on a constant high, and it's a natural high. It's an amazing feeling. I don't know the scientificness behind it, but I'm sure Dave knows a little bit now to describe that.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't really know how it's working, but you do feel amazing. I got to about 84 hours the other day
Wow.
of fast, just because day one I just didn't feel like eating, and then it just kind of I went, well, I'll see how long this goes, you know. So I got to about 84 hours, and yeah, I felt great. But one thing is when I did have that meal, I wasn't super hungry, but I was just I'd been on a live stream talking about food, and I was just like, oh, I've got to eat now. I can't not eat just thinking about food, you know. And after I ate, I had kind of had this feeling like I wish I'd just seen how much longer I could have gone. You know, I'd like to see how long I could have pushed it, but yeah, it feels great. And when you wake up, it's this compared to normally waking up, it's just this euphoric feeling like, okay, let's go, let's do it, let's seize the day. It's great.
Yeah, you're instantly ready to go. It's just hard to it's a hard to describe feeling if you haven't done it.
The with the intermittent fasting you're doing day to day, is that because you feel that's helping with the gist, or is that just because you're naturally not feeling hungry?
So initially with the intermittent fasting, that started because of the gist. I've been watching a lot of Professor Thomas Sidfree videos on the interwebs. He's got all these different certifications. I'm not going to list them off, but he's the one that talks about and studies cancer as a glucose and glutamine source. It's not a genetics disease, but it's a metabolic disease, cancer. And so that's why I started doing intermittent fasting initially, so I could stay in a level of ketosis as long as possible. If you're in a level of ketosis, your body could fight cancer a lot easier, and even handle treatment a lot easier. So my friend Jeff DeProsperous, bless his heart, he's no longer with us. But when he was doing treatment, he was doing aggressive fasting. I don't hold me word for word for what his schedule was, but say he went on like a 5 day treatment on the bottle, he would go a couple of days before that with no food to get in a state of ketosis, and then do his round of treatment for days with no food, and then refuel once he got done with his treatment. And he was exercising under treatment. And he was just doing amazing. And it was all because he put his body into a state of ketosis to protect his healthy cells, which allowed the body, and then of course the chemo as well, to go after the unhealthy cells. And I think that's why when we do our aggressive fasting for 72 or 84 hours or whatever the length is, we feel so good, because it's like, okay, our body just hits that mode of let's cleanse itself. And as we feel good, because the bad cells are leaving our body, they're getting destroyed.
For you're in the gym, you said 6 days, but now maybe cutting it down to 5 days a week. But you must be feeling pretty good if you're going that often.
Yeah, I feel amazing. I'm getting stronger at the gym. I still go to the pool on Sundays. I missed today, I was busy, but I do sauna therapy every Sunday, and I call it, I swim laps, but I only go back and forth a couple of times. I normally just lounge in the water and enjoy myself. I'm not a very good swimmer. But so that's every Sunday. Recently started doing church on Sundays as well. So that's actually been a weight lifted. Just letting my guard down, trying something new in life. And keeping my routine. Monday through Friday for sure to gym. Sometimes Saturdays I go, sometimes I don't. It kind of depends on what I have planned on the weekends now. I also have done a couple of days of kickboxing class recently, which is fun but interesting. I'm not very coordinated as far as left to right yet, but I'm getting there. But the gym's amazing, and the performance. Like I think I told you earlier, when I was carb based or plant based or just normal dietary, I was bringing food with me to the gym to fuel my workouts because I was just getting exhausted. And mind you, since day one at the gym, it has always been like an hour and a half to 2 hours. But in the beginning, it was that long because I was getting trained. A buddy of mine was walking me through the steps, so it would take longer to do the activities or the presses and stuff. Well, as I progressed and got better and didn't need help, I just started doing more exercises and kept the length of the gym time the same for whatever reason. I probably overtrained sometimes, but now that I'm carnivore based, I don't bring food with me to the gym, and I could even work out in a fasted state. So with my fast the other month, or even this month, when I went on my 3 day fast, the first 2 days I still went to the gym, and the third day I skipped. I mean, I might have walked on a treadmill or something, but I didn't do any strength training the third day. It just and it saves money. I don't have to. You're not buying as much food, so you're saving. I mean, people are like, oh, meat's expensive. I mean, it can be, but the amount of what you're eating versus what you were eating carb based isn't there. The volume's not there, so you're actually saving money because you're eating once or twice a day versus 3 or 4 times a day and snacks in between.
That's right. People are like, "Oh, it's really expensive," and it's yeah, but I'm eating once or twice versus 23 times, so it's
Yeah,
I'm saving a lot of money.
and you're not buying as much toilet paper because you're not shitting as much, so to speak, or going to the bathroom.
Right. Well, that's what, when I look back on it, that's what makes me laugh about the pandemic, right? When you think, I mean, I was a regular sad diet kind of around that time, but
Me too.
everyone's rushing to buy toilet paper at that point, and it's like if you're carnivore, you're not worried about the toilet paper, you're rushing to buy all the meat before it sells out, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and what's funny about that? Well, I guess it's not funny because it just shows how some people's just really don't know how the body works or how the body feels. Um, but people are like, oh, well, if you're only going to the bathroom, once a day or every other day when you're carnivore based, aren't you constipated? And I'm like, well, first of all, constipation comes with pain. You're cramped up. You're bloated, and you hurt. And it's like I had a buddy recently go carnivore based, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to the bathroom less. I must be constipated." And I'm like, "Dude, no. Think of it this way: what you're eating, you're absorbing." And it's going to feel so you will be going to the bathroom less because you don't have the byproduct of waste that's just getting flushed out. That's why you need fiber in a regular diet because your body can't absorb it. So that's why you leave it in a toilet because your body doesn't know what to do with it. If it knew what to do with it, it would absorb it like ours does. And so if you want to think about wasteful money, you're in a standard American diet or a carb based diet. Every time you take a deuce, all that byproduct, that's money you're throwing away of food that you ate that your body doesn't know what to do with. And I mean, I could eat probably say 2-3 pounds of food today, and I won't go to the bathroom for 24, 30 hours, whatever the time frame may be, and it'll be a small one. And I'm like, oh, I probably have 50 cents worth of waste out of that $10 meal, or that $30 worth of food I ate. That's probably only 50 cents worth of food versus $10 worth of food or $5 worth of food or whatever it may be. I remember
Yeah.
going to the burrito store in the day, buying a burrito, comes out, and then taking a deuce the same size as the burrito. I'm like, well, that's a $10 turd right there. $10 meal and
Yeah.
it comes out the same size.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? And these people that think, oh, it's too expensive to do carnivore, they're eating the 23 snacks or meals a day, and then the bathroom looks like a war zone as well. It's like it's terrible, you know?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
looks and smells like a war zone, and then just the inflammation, the bloat, the irritability, and even the negativity in the mindset. Um, I myself and a lot of people that I know that went from carb based to carnivore based, fat based, our minds think a lot more quicker, clearer. I'm more positive mentally. I mean, I wake up every day being blessed. I mean, we all have our bad days, of course, but as a whole, I'm blessed every day. And I haven't had a thought since I've been fat based, carnivore based. And that's amazing because growing up, I've had suicidal thoughts. During the beginning of the cancer journey, of course, I had quite a few of them because I'm like, why me? Especially during my decline. But, you know, it's amazing when you actually put the right fuel source into the body on how well it could perform. It's kind of looking at different tiers of athletes. You want to be a base level athlete, you want to be a high performance athlete, or you want to be, the top 2% of the world. What kind of food are you gonna eat, and how are you gonna, and it's just amazing on how many people don't trust themselves to give them 30 days to see how they feel on just trying it, because you can
Mm.
notice a big difference in 30 days.
Yeah. And it's a really good point on, the quality of what you're putting in, because people think, and I was guilty of this myself. You can just put whatever you want in. And as you said at the beginning of this interview, food is food, right? That's what they tell you. And so that's what you go through your whole life like that. And it's a little bit like filling your gas tank up with sparkling water and going, why is this car so bad? It never works. And it's like, well, you got to put the right thing in there to get it to work properly.
That's just it. I think I said on my last interview with you, just because it fits in the mouth doesn't mean it's food. um, and in a mechanics term, it's going from like a gasoline engine to a diesel engine. You put diesel in a gasoline car, it ain't gonna run, or it'll run like crap. You put gasoline in a diesel truck, it's gonna lock it up, and you just ruin your rig. So you put the right fuel
Yeah.
source in, it's going to run properly, and your filters, which is your heart, your arteries, everything else in between, are going to do better because it has the right fuel source versus having to go put a pacemaker in or a stent in or all these different surgery procedures, because the nutritional source we're putting in is plugging our filters, which is all of our internals. For me, for example, when I was 24, 25, I had my gallbladder removed because I had gallstones, and that was painful. And the doctor told me at the time, "Hey, if you get gallstones once, you'll get them again." At the time, I didn't know the power of nutrition, so I was like, "Hey, cut that thing out of me. I don't want gallstones again. This is painful." I spent a couple days in the hospital before they even did surgery. Well, now that I understand nutrition and understand about the human body, the gallstones was caused by my own ignorance by not eating enough animal fats, healthy fats in the diet. So the bile that's in the gallbladder crystallized, which came to stone. If I had enough fat in the diet, it would have never crystallized because it would have been the bile would have been working and doing its job. And I would have never got gallstones in the first place. But if the doctor was either honest with me or either knew about nutrition, depending on the course, they could have just been like, "Hey, eat more fats and you keep your gallbladder." And now I have to, well, not anymore, but for a long time I had to stay away from fats because I'd get sick. I've learned how to adapt to the carnivore diet, and we'll talk about that in a minute.
That's actually interesting, an interesting point. So, how did you adapt? Because you're eating quite a lot of fat relative to
Yeah,
protein. So
yeah, I'm
how
having
how
a
did that
lot of
go?
fat compared to protein. So initially, being I don't have a gallbladder, and that's what helps produce or processes your fat. Otherwise, you get number threes. Initially, when I went carnivore based, I had a supplement I was buying called Ox Bile. It's a gallbladder help support system that helps absorb fat. So I did Ox Bile for a couple of months just to get my body to help absorb the fat with the pills help. And then as I understood and studied carnivore, thanks to Dr. Anthony Shafee's videos, I understood that the intestines, I think it's the smaller intestine, I could be mistaken, but the intestines has the power to also produce bile. It takes a little while to do, but there's another internal piece in your body that can help break down fats. It just takes a little while more for it to work on its own, like the gallbladder would have. And so, through period of time, months and months and months, my body now could absorb the fat naturally. I stopped ox bile probably 6 months ago or so. No, maybe 8 months ago. So I only used ox bile for, we'll say, 3 to 6 months, and then after that, I just kind of winged off of it to let the body just see what it did. And of course, it had a learning curve. I had to really adjust fat ratio quick, but here we are, 14 months in, and I have quite a bit of fat compared to protein. I need to actually do the math one of these days, and then on the next interview, I can tell you what it is.
Like, where does this go for you from here? You just continue with the diet as is and the exercise program as is, and when do you have your next checkup?
So my next scan will be 6 months out. So we'll say May or June, depending on when they want to schedule it, of next year. And then, as a matter of fact, within the last couple of days was my 1 year anniversary of being on the European mistletoe injections, which is the experimental drug through the naturopathic office. In the beginning, I started out with like 5 milligrams per shot, and here we are a year later, and I'm shooting up the mistletoe Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, and I believe it's 25 milligrams per shot now. So the strength is, 5 times stronger than it was day one. And I'm not 100% certain if that's something that's helping or not, as far as controlling the cancer or not, but I do know it makes me feel good. It has a little bit of endorphins in it, for one, and for two, I do know that since I've been on it, the cancer hasn't gotten any worse, but I have a hard time stating what's done what because I started European mistletoe like 30 days after I started carnivore, or maybe 45 days. And so I wish I would have had more of a break between the two for a timeline so I could understand how powerful the European mistletoe is. But being as how it seems to be helping and I'm not getting any worse, I still use it. I see the doctor in a couple of days, and we're thinking about going up on a stronger dose. And I've also done 3 parasite cleanse already. A natural style, PCI is the brand, all herbicidal. But I want to actually get on a regular parasitic cleanse, whether it's ivermectin or fenbendazole or menbendazole, some type of regular cleanse I could do on a regular basis, because cancer itself isn't a parasite, but the way it attaches to the body, according to Professor Thomas Sidfree, is the way a parasite would attach, and so you need that chemical compound to help release the cancer cells. And so, especially in a fasted state, when you're in autophagy, that's where the cleanse really comes in handy. And I've actually seen a couple of studies on the interwebs recently where they've had a couple of trials where patients in clinical trials have been doing certain line of therapies plus, some type of parasitic cleanse, and they're having some success as well. So I want to hop on that and see can't nothing can't get any worse. I mean, I already got cancer. I mean, might as well give it a shot and see what happens.
The I think the thing that comes through from yourself and a lot of people I talk to that may have something like cancer is this whole process gives you back so much power. Because you think of the kind of the average person, if they get a diagnosis like this, they go to the doctor, and then it's just like every meeting with the doctor must be like, well, what can I do? What do you recommend? And the doctor's like, well, here's a medication, or we've exhausted all medications, and so there's nothing much you can do. Like when you can kind of think about it in terms of nutrition and then maybe some other kinds of therapies, it just gives you back so much power, right?
So on a quick little tangent about that, real quick. Back when I was working, I was making pretty good money. I was able to buy toys, have extra money, go to the bar often, whatever. No, money wasn't an issue, and I bought my happiness. It was all momentarily happiness, and here I have stage 4 cancer. I haven't worked since July of 2022, and I am happier now than I've ever been. This stage 4 cancer journey has been the best thing that's ever happened in my life, and it's all because I was brought down to my knees to my deathbed. I actually was so close to death during chemo times. I bought a cemetery plot. I did my will, the whole 9 yards, just because if things got worse, I didn't want somebody to have to deal with all that. I just wanted to have my bases covered. I probably would have had another 60 days in max in my mind till I went out if I stayed on chemotherapy. So the fact that I've been through what I've been through, and I'm so blessed to meet you. This is my second interview with you. I've had an interview with Carrie Mann from Healing Humanity. I got to meet Jeff the Prosperous up there in Canada, not physically in person, I wish, but it's been such a blessing to be able to have the power to apply myself to learn how to be alive. And here I'm, in my opinion, thriving with stage 4 just cancer off normal treatment, all natural minus the experimental stuff through the naturopath, which I had to pay out of pocket for because it's experimental, so insurance doesn't even cover it, which sucks. But if I had to do this all over again, my only thing I would change is I wish I would have had the knowledge that I have now, so I would have opted out from surgery and not been cut open because I would have liked to have had my stomach or all of my stomach. And it would have been nice to just hop on carnivore without treatment to see what happens. But the fact that I've been through what I've been through and I have all the information in my chart, that's the cool part, is because if I could be sitting here talking to you, somebody might not believe me, but all you have to do is look in my chart, and I have all the proof in the pudding, in the my chart. Everything I talk about on the records, whether it's imaging, blood work, doctor notes, whatever. And I cannot wait to be NED, which is no evidence of disease, because with just it's in my case it's hereditary. In my case it's hereditary, and it is germline. So it's called no evidence of disease, not remission. But I can't wait for the day I'm in no evidence of disease mode. But until then, if that ever happens, as long as I can control the disease I live with and talk about my journey and help others learn the power of the proper human diet, that is amazing to me. I think I told you in the last interview, that's why I started my own YouTube channel recently, so I could help talk to more other people and just spread the word on the importance of feeding ourselves and our minds properly, whether it's nutrition and positive thoughts, the whole 9 yards. We need to slow down as a whole and appreciate and enjoy life more.
Yeah, well said. So, how can we find you on YouTube, and do you have any other social media?
So my name Anthony Haydock is my Facebook for now. Eventually, I'd like to get a new Facebook page instead of using my private account. But for now, you could send me a request on my private account and follow me. I also have Instagram, which is my name, Anthony Haydock, for now. My YouTube channel is Making Cancer My Bitch. And then my TikTok is the same thing with no H because the TikTok won't allow me to put the H in it.
That's right. I remember you saying that last time. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay.
YouTube allowed the H, TikTok did not.
Which surprises me. I would have thought it'd be the other way around, but yeah.
Yeah, it's wild.
Um, yeah. Okay. Well, I'll link to all your socials below.
I appreciate that.
Anthony, really appreciate you coming on and giving us an update, and I hope you'll come back once you've had your next scan and let us know how things are going.
Yeah, we'll stay in touch, and then this next year when I do my next scan, we'll have another interview and talk. Maybe by then I'll be a few more pounds heavier or some muscles, so I can still prove that people with cancer could build muscle, and then continue just doing what I'm doing and spreading a good word of the power of nutrition and mindset.